This is Jason Verney's podcast. I am Jason Verney. This is one of the couple of podcasts I do. I've currently got the Not So Korean podcast that I used to or sometimes co-host with Timothy Home. That's a podcast relating to South Korea, film, culture, important matters and loads of things. I also run the Micro Budget Filmmakers podcast because I'm a filmmaker and there's a collective that we have that are involved with that. And we interview various people from the world of filmmaking. I've also recently started, but this is nothing major. This is because I'm in Thailand. I'm sort of putting out some episodes relating to Thailand and just small snippets relating to Chiang Mai. But I will be doing on-the-fly episodes about Thailand. This particular one that you can find out there on audio and various platforms and even YouTube is called Chiang Mai Chatter. So I speak about all things Chiang Mai. This particular episode that you're listening to now, or perhaps watching on YouTube or wherever, is the FLICKS, Jason Verney's FLICKS podcast. And the reason it's called FLICKS is because it does film reviews. So that's the F, film reviews, movie reviews, life in general, when I'm traveling, when I'm sort of collaborating with people, when I'm exploring new cultures. Interviews, that's the I. The camera, because I do filmmaking, I'm a filmmaker, so that's the C, and K is for Korea, and S for sounds, and that's music, so it's FLICKS, and it's FLICKS. In this particular episode of Jason Verney's FLICKS, or Jason Verney's podcast, or FLICKS, we're going to cover a film that I recently saw in a cinema here in Thailand. I actually saw it in Chiang Mai, which is north of Thailand, and this particular film, now I'm going to get the title wrong, but I'm going to say it, it's Pha Dam Kham Ai. Pha Dam Kham Ai. This particular film is actually set in the northeast of Thailand. It's a region that's also known as Isan or Isan, some people say either, and it's also quite heavily Laotian, Lao is spoken. And amongst the characters or people in the film, we have Miss Universe Lao 2017, and it's directed by Wichita Watananon, and people that are in the film, I'll name three of those. There's Superfan Nui Somwichit, Fetai Vongkum Lao, and Endu Vongkum Lao. So I apologise if I'm getting those pronunciations wrong, but it was a film that I wanted to see. In fact, it wasn't kind of calling out to me, it wasn't really pushing me to see the film because it's a Cinderella story. So first of all, there's a slight sort of, it's not original, it's trying to be a version of Cinderella. And I was still interested because first of all, it's a rarity, really, I think, to get this kind of film in a cinema, or at least I haven't seen that many. And I wanted to, it's that part of the country. I've actually been to Nakhon Ratchasima, which is also known as Korat. I've also been to Surin. Well, it's actually debatable where I was. It was Surin, Buriram kind of border and very near to Cambodia. And Buriram is actually very well known for the football team. But what I was going to say was a part of that, much of that area, which is so close to Lao, and because of the history, lots of Thais there speak Lao, especially the ones closer to the border. That's what I understand anyway. But it isn't known to be, it's less, I'm trying to put this in a nice way, it's more sort of, there's more poverty in that part of the country. People living perhaps, perfectly happy, but there's more, there's less, it's a less, maybe some of it is a less educated sort of area. It's a huge area. And so it's something I really wanted to see in the end, because it's not a film that, you don't get too many films that come from that area. I've had 2 recent reviews of Thai-related films, Thailand films. And one is Uranus 2324, which was kind of Thailand's first space film, and also I reviewed Breaking the Cycle, the Thai sort of political film. So I really wanted to see this film because it's a completely different ballgame. It's not sort of a big Thai film in that respect, and it's not a documentary, but it does fit the Cinderella story. But again, it's also not the Cinderella story in one or two ways, and I'll mention those in a little while. So what we have, first of all, the film opens to a kind of, there's a story, there's a kind of a book that unfolds, and there's some beautiful mountainous and mountain scenery, greenery that is played quite a lot in the early part of the film. There's a fight in the woods. There's some good martial arts scenes in this film. And I will probably say this, that the characters, as I tried to pronounce the title of the film, it's Pha Dam Kham Ai, and that is representing 2 different characters. Pha Dam is one and Kham Ai is the other. The actual Pha Dam is Prince Pha Dam, and so that's one character, that's the guy, and the woman is the other one. And I actually found it quite funny that the characters who play the woman's sort of bad sisters, or if you know the Cinderella tale, you know there's an evil sort of stepmother and a couple of wicked women, and let's say a couple of, well, there's a wicked stepmother and two of the younger sisters, but the 2 younger sisters in this film, the name of one of them was Tang Mo and Tang Gro. Now, Tang Mo, as far as I know, means watermelon, and I know this because I order Tang Mo on a almost daily basis here. Let me just see what Tang Gro is. I should have come prepared with this, but I didn't. I'm just going to check on my laptop. Let's have a look. I'm not sure. It could be grapes, but I'm not too sure. Let's forget that. So basically, we have this setup where we have the Prince Pha Dam, who he meets the woman, but he, of course, as it's the Cinderella story and these kind of fairy tales, he hides who he is. He doesn't kind of make it known that he's royalty. The wicked stepmother, but with her 2 younger sisters. But where it differs a bit, I would say, from the typical Cinderella story, and this, as I say, this is called, the full title of this, I think, is Pha Dam Kham Ai and Isan, Cinderella Story. But where it differs is that the 2 younger sisters would normally be sort of, really nasty to her, constantly tormenting our heroine woman. But in this one, I felt like only one of the younger sisters was being like that. The other one was actually quite sort of sympathetic towards the way that she was being treated, and she would smile or laugh when her sister got something wrong or something bad happened to her. So I thought that was an interesting take. Now, either I don't know the Cinderella story that well, or I've misread the story or misread the original story. That's what I wasn't sure. So we go from these 2, they meet. Our main character, a female character, she's having issues at home. They're really nasty to her. Prince Pha Dam, as I say, he meets the woman, but there's a time when he decides that he's going to have a woman to be his wife. In fact, when there's quite a few amusing scenes here, which there's quite a lot of rude detail in this film and jokes that are said that are quite rude and crude, and I wondered what the certificate was for this film, or at least for in the country, because it felt like it was in our country it'd be a U certificate or PG, but or even a 12, and it just felt like some of the jokes this wasn't really fit for children, in my opinion. And I saw it with not that many people were there when I saw it, but it had, a mixed audience. They were children, that's for sure. So we also have something that's quite well known in Thailand. We have scenes of a sort of a firework or a rocket contest, and that plays quite a big part in this when the two are kind of talking. But there are those kind of raunchy jokes made that I just mentioned, and I'm sorry if I'm going all around the place here, but I've made a few notes. I'm trying to recollect exactly what happened. But the son, the king, or the king of the prince, the father of the prince, he's really rude, and he sort of digs at his wife, and at one point towards the end of the film, and I'm skipping ahead here, but towards the end of the film, there's a moment where this party, which, if you know the Cinderella story, you know that there's a party involved, and the princess, or the woman rather, she has to get home before a certain time, otherwise she'll turn into a pumpkin or whatever. Now that isn't the exact same thing that happens here, but there is a party, and it's quite funny because there's some English or English speaking characters in the film, phalangs, foreigners in Thailand. And bear in mind this is set years and years and years and years ago. They are speaking. They obviously you hear them speak English, but you also therefore hear one of these wicked sisters actually saying something British, and it is quite funny and amusing. And I don't mean that in a bad way, But after this party that is towards the end of the film, this is a relatively short film. The party kind of, it's not just a dance or a ball anymore, it's not that kind of thing. It turns into this kind of raucous, sort of loud, sort of sexual, almost orgy kind of party, or basically lots of drugs and and a real party. Because it's quite well sort of shown to us that the king, the father of the prince, is actually quite a sort of he's a party goer, or he just wants to have sex with somebody, or he just wants to get high, I suppose. So it's quite sort of amusing watching that. But it is difficult to review this because I know the film of Cinderella, and this, what did it say? It said something. It said it's a love story from the Korat Plateau. Now, I think that's Korat because of the Korat city, which I found out the other day. Korat, I think, has more temples than Chiang Mai, which I found hard to believe, but apparently it does. Thailand has lots of sort of places that were kingdoms, and, within the kingdom of Thailand, or, that made up the kingdom of Thailand. And as I mentioned earlier, Buriram has a well-known football team. And it's also, as I say, there's lots of, I feel really sad, there's a lot of people that are less well off or less educated in certain parts of the Isan, whatever you want to say, area. It's sometimes spelled Isan, I-S-S-A-N, or it's sometimes spelled I-S-A-A-N. And some of these people, the jobs they do and the jobs they choose to do, perhaps they go to work in now, I'm not saying this any particular, I'm not making a sweeping statement here. I'm saying some of the people, some of the women especially, end up working in prostitution, or just in bars, in red light districts throughout Thailand. And the reason I'm mentioning this, because and I've got something to say on that myself anyway, but there's a line in it which translates to, she's scared of the white man's willy. And I thought how kind of surreal that, some people who know that the Isan women, and I'm not going to say girls, some people call these people girls, they're doing this, they're women, she's scared of the white man's willy. It's something that happens in the film, and that's stated, and I thought it's quite funny because in some way, this is a part of me that wishes that more women from that area were scared of the white man's willy, because maybe then they would maybe not, and I know it's perhaps desperation, they might take up these jobs, but I don't feel that it's a Western, it's the fact that, look, prostitution exists in all parts of the world, but there's two factors here. we are talking about, and this film doesn't talk about prostitution. I'm just going on to this because of that joke that was mentioned, and because the huge area of Isan, which is, in fact, if you go online and you look at the trailer, one or two of the comments, or probably more comments than that, are kind of, they're very proud of the Lao language they speak, the Laotian, and they're very proud of that. It is interesting that you meet people, because it's close to Laos, and it's, at one point Laos was a part of Thailand, and it's all this mix. But going back to what I was saying about that joke about being scared of the white man's willy, I don't feel it's right that Western men who have money come here to get what they want for a small price and justify it. There's other ways that you can help people, women, but not only that, it stems from war. Now, I'm sorry if I offended anyone out there, and any Thais that are listening. I feel like this whole thing, sure, prostitution existed before, but it was because of the USA in the Vietnamese War. They based themselves in Thailand, and now whoever monopolized on this or capitalized on it is, it is turned into this industry that it's shameful that Thailand gets a name for these sort of red light areas, or I'm not sure where I'm going with that. But when we get back to the story, which I'm doing now, the story, as you know, they go to a ball. There's also a character in this who I should mention. She's a woman. Now, I'm not sure if she's a leper or she's someone who's got a skin disease, and she makes some of those rude jokes that I mentioned, and it's quite. She's a good little character. If not the easiest to look at, because of, there's some great makeup, I'm guessing, some great makeup on her to make her appear that way. And there's also a moment, I said earlier that there's a moment where the ball, the respectable dance or ball, turns into a kind of party with drugs and whatever going on. But when the couple at the end, because we all know how this ends, if you know Cinderella, and I also knew when I went to see this film, there won't be a lot of thinking involved. So I kind of thought, right, I'll go to see this. But when they kiss at the end, as people do when they get married, they kind of go over the top with sort of laying on the floor, and it's really over the top, but it sort of falls in line. It kind of goes in line with this whole sort of perverted way of speaking that the king has, and one or two other characters, and he says something like, "Can't you wait until the guests leave first?" It's a very well done film, and I'm glad it kind of got this release. It also talks about what is it? A land called Singatanakorn. I think because Takon, there's lots of Nakorns and areas of Thailand and North-East that have similar sounding names, so I'm finding it tricky to pronounce some of them. So it is a good film. For what it is, it's a nice sort of easy bit of filmmaking, or an easy bit of film watching. I believe they call that festival, there's a festival in it called a Molam Festival. Now, that's all I can mention here. I've also read online about that. The king, I should mention this because I mentioned the prince's name, Prince Pha Dam, but the king is a King Phagun, I'm not too sure, and the queen is named Neil Phak. There's a whole, if you go online, of course, there's a whole list of the actors and characters that were played that were in this film. Oh, and one more thing. At the very end of the film, the credits, or around the time of the credits, we have some great little illustrations, or it's scenes from the film, shots from the film, of the certain characters, and they just morph into kind of a drawing or painting. And that is meant to be the pages sort of in the book that we opened the film with. This has kind of been done before in films, but it's done very nicely in this film. And I think the book then closes, and we see the book there, and then we are drawn into a kind of another scene, what seems like a scene in the film being a kind of a meta scene, you know, like the characters are acting a scene and they say, oh yes, and here comes the director walking through the frame, walking through what they're doing. So it's kind of a nice sort of little hidden gem at the end of the very end of the film, or very near to the end of the credits. So that's it really. I'm sorry if I haven't given it much of a review. There was I saw it several days ago, so it's not as fresh in my mind now. It does have this is another thing that is quite a thing in Thailand, I think, but Thailand's leading comedian, Mum Jokmok, or Mum Jokmok, he is the executive producer on this film, so I don't know what I'm guessing he had some, you know, interest in this film, so that's something. Okay, that's it. I don't know if the next episode will be a film from Korea or from Thailand or Japan. I've got a couple of films I still want to talk about, but either way there'll be more Thai films review, Thai film reviews coming up. Welcome to leave comments if you listen or watch this on YouTube. Seek out our other podcasts or my other podcasts, not the Not So Korean podcast. You can find it everywhere. The Micro Budget Filmmakers podcast, and if you really want to, you can see or listen to the Chiang Mai Chatter. They're just short episodes, me strolling around, speaking a bit about aspects of Chiang Mai, and there will be other elements of Thai culture and more to come in general. Okay, thanks for listening. ขอบคุณมากครับ โชคดีนะครับ